Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is part 3 of the CCNA exam practice questions series. In this video, I will be covering the topics and questions that will help you pass the CCNA certification exam. I have compiled 30 practice questions to get you prepped and primed for the success on the CISCO CCNA certification exam. But hold on tight because it's not just about answering questions. We will also be explaining the concepts that will make you feel like CISCO networking superhero. So if you are ready to ace the CISCO CCNA exam and elevate your career to new heights, make sure to hit that like button, ring the notification bell, and join our growing community of tech enthusiasts. So let's gear up and dive into the success. Question number 1. Refer to the exhibit. Which statement explains the configuration error message that is received? So we have this exhibit here. We can see that this configuration tries to give an IP address to this interface, and this is the IP address and the subnet mask that it tries to give and assign to this interface, but we are receiving this error message. So what is the cause of this error message? And the options are: option A, it is a broadcast IP address. Option B, the router does not support /28 mask. Option C, it belongs to a private IP address range. And option D, it is a network IP address. And the correct option is the option A, it is a broadcast IP address. So this IP address, the 192.168.16.143, it is a broadcast IP address. Therefore, you cannot assign this to any interface. The broadcast IP address and the network IP address are not assignable to the interfaces. So if we break down this particular network, so here we can see that this is the network address. This is the network address of this particular network. These are the usable IP addresses, and the range is from IP address 129 to IP address 142. And this is the broadcast IP address here we are talking about. So you cannot assign this address and this address to the interface, while these addresses ranging from 129 to 142, they are also known as usable IP addresses. You can assign them to host, you can assign them to the router or switch interfaces, but the broadcast and the network IP address, they cannot be assigned to either the host or the interfaces. So if we have total 16 IP addresses in the network, the usable IP addresses are less than 2. It is 14 because the first, that is the network address, and the last IP address, that is the broadcast IP address, they are not usable. It means they cannot be assigned to the host or to the interfaces. Question number 2. An organization has decided to start using cloud-based or cloud-provided services. Which cloud service allows the organizations to install its own operating system on a virtual machine? And the options are: option A, platform as a service; option B, software as a service; option C, network as a service; and option D, infrastructure as a service. And the correct option is option D, infrastructure as a service. So using infrastructure as a service, the client will be able to install and manage its own operating systems. So the correct answer is D, infrastructure as a service. Infrastructure as a service provides virtualized. Let me get back to the explanation. Infrastructure as a service provides virtualized computer resources over the internet, allowing the organization to install and manage its own operating system and applications on the virtual machine. While the platform and the software as a service, they do not have the flexibility for the client to install and configure their own operating system. So these are all the different models of the cloud services. So in the on-site, it is the traditional model in which you have to do, or the client have to do all the tasks. So this is the blue colored tasks are those that are managed by the client, and the red ones are those that are managed by the service provider. So in the on-site, it is all done by the client. In the infrastructure is a service. Up to the OS, middleware, runtime, data, and application are done by the client, while the virtualization, server, storage, and networking infrastructure is provided by the service provider. Similarly, in the platform as a service, only the application and data can be managed by the client, while the rest is managed by the service provider. While in the software as a service, the client only use the software, having no ability to configure or manage the underlying infrastructure, including the application, data, runtime environment as well. Question number 3. Which network allows devices to communicate without the need to access the internet? And the options are option A, 172.9.00/16, option B, 172.28.00/16, option C, 192.000/8, and option D, 209.165.201.0/64. So here we are talking about the private IP addresses that can be used without the access to internet, or they can be used on your local LAN or on your local network. So what is this range, or what are these IP addresses in this particular question? It is the option B. So the 172.28.0.0/16 IP address range is the private IP address that can be used inside your local network. So this range falls within the private IP address space specified by the RFC 1918, which is reserved for use within private networks and does not require access to the internet for devices to communicate with each other. Here are the private IP address ranges according to RFC 1918. So 10.0.0.0 to 10.255.255.255 are 10/8, 10.0.0.0/8. The second range is 192.168.0.0 to 172.31.255.255. So in this particular example, our correct option lies in this particular range. It is /12. And the third range is 192.168.0.0 up to 192.168.255.255 or 192.168.0.0/16. So these three are the private IP address ranges. Question number 4. In which way does a spine and a leaf architecture allows for scalability in a network when additional access ports are required? And the options are option A, spine switch and a leaf switch can be added with redundant connections between them. Option B, a spine switch can be added with at least 40 GB uplinks. Option C, a leaf switch can be added with a single connection to a core spine switch. And option D, a leaf switch can be added with connections to every spine switch. And this is the correct option, the option D, that a leaf switch can be added with connections to every spine switch. So this is the architecture of the leaf and spine architecture. So in this architecture, we have spine switches and we have leaf switches. Leaf switches are those to which the end devices such as switches, host, computers, or printers are connected, and each leaf switch is connected to every other spine switch. So if you run out of your ports on your leaf switches, what you can do that you can add an additional leaf switch and connect it to every spine switch. So in this way, this architecture is scalable because you can add additional leaf switches when required. So this is the explanation and the correct answer of this question. Question number 5, refer to the exhibit. An engineer configured NAT translation, that is network address translation, and has verified that the configuration is correct. Which IP address is the source IP? So we have this configuration, show IP NAT translations, and here we can see that we are seeing the translation of the inside global, inside local, outside global, and outside local and outside global. So these are the local, inside local private IP addresses that are basically assigned to the clients. This is the one public IP address, or the public IP addresses that is used by the client to talk with the outside world, and these are the outside IP addresses that you want to communicate. So in this particular question, they are asking about what is the source IP address, and the correct option is the option D, the 172.23.104.4, this one. So this is the source IP address of traffic seen to the outside world. But in reality, this is also the source IP address. This is the original source IP address of the client, and this is a source IP address after translation. So if you see the NAT in action, here you can see these are our private IP addresses. In this case, it is 192.168, but in our case, these are 10.4.4.0 network. Let's suppose it's /24. And this is the public IP address. In our case, this address is 172.23.104.3 .4 or .3, and this is the public IP address of the outside world. This is again 172.23.103, and let's suppose this is a complete network of /24. So here we can see that this is the source IP address to this host, because the host sees this IP address. It does not see the original source IP address, that is 10.4.4, because this is private IP address not routable on the internet, and this is changed and translated to this local global IP address. I hope this is understandable. Again, refer to the exhibit. An extended ASCL, that is access control list, has been configured and applied to the router R2. The configuration failed to work as intended. Which two changes stop outbound traffic on TCP ports 25 and 82, 10.0.20.026 from the 10.0.10.0/26. So this is 0/26. Subnet while still allowing all other traffic. So here what we want to do is that we want to stop specific type of traffic from this subnet to this subnet. And what is that specific traffic? That we want to traffic to port 25 and port 80 from this IP address to this IP address be blocked on this router using this configuration. But as per the configuration, the traffic is not stopped and it does not work. So what is the solution to correct this configuration and make it work? And the options are: option A, add a permit IP any statement to the beginning of ACL 101 for allowed traffic. Option B, add a permit IP any statement at the end of ACL 101 for allowed traffic. Option C, the source and destination IPs must be swapped in ACL 101. Option D, the ACL must be configured on the gigabit 0/2 interface inbound on R1. And option E, the ACL must be moved to the GI01 interface outbound on the R2. And the correct options are, the first correct option is that add a permit IP any statement and at the end of ACL 101 for allowed traffic. So we want to deny or drop only traffic to the port 25 and 80 while allowing the rest of the traffic. So you must add this statement at the end of these two statements to allow other type of traffic besides that of destined for port 25 and port 80. And the second correct option is that the source and destination IPs must be swapped in ACL 101. So here in our case, this is the source and this is the destination, while in the configuration they are incorrectly written. So in our rules, this is written as the source, while this is written 10.0.10 is written as the destination, while in fact this is our source and this is destination. So these must be flipped. Here we must write 10.0.10.0 and here we should write 10.0.20. Similarly, here we should write 10.0.10.0 and here 10.0.20.0. So changing these two configuration changes will make the configuration work. It will deny or stop the traffic to the port SMTP, that is port 25, and to www, that is port 80. And once we block these two traffic to these two ports, we will add this statement so that other traffic from this source to this destination is allowed. I hope this is understandable. If there is any question regarding this question or any other question, you can ask me in the comment section and I will happy to reply. Let's move forward to the next question. Question number 7. Which mode must be used to configure EtherChannel between two switches without using a negotiation protocol? And the options are option A, on, option B, auto, option C, active, and option D, desirable. And the correct option is option A, on. So to configure EtherChannel without using a negotiation protocol like PAGP, port aggregation protocol, or LLDP, link aggregation control protocol, you need to use the on mode. This mode forces the port to join an EtherChannel without any negotiation. Auto and desirable modes involve negotiation protocols. Active mode is for LLDP, which is also a negotiation protocol. So a quick guide to what is EtherChannel. So in EtherChannel, we combine two or more than two ports between two switches, and the purpose of this is to increase the bandwidth. So if this is 10G and this is also 10G, after combining them through EtherChannel, our effective bandwidth will increase to 20G, and this also gives us redundancy. If one port is down due to any reason, then the connection or link is still up through the other port. You can combine more than two ports. Question number 8. When configuring a wireless LAN with WPA2 PSK in the Cisco Wireless LAN Controller GUI, which two formats are available to select? Choose two, and the options are option A, ASCII, option B, base 64, option C, binary, option D, decimal, and option E, hexadecimal. And the correct options are option A, ASCII, and option E, hexadecimal. So when configuring a wireless LAN with WPA2 PSK in Cisco Wireless LAN Controller GUI, you typically have the option to input the pre-shared key in either ASCII or hexadecimal format. ASCII is the standard character encoding for most modern computer systems. Hexadecimal is a base 16 number system often used for representing binary data in a more human-readable format. Question number 9. Which command entered on a switch configured with rapid PVST listens and learns for a specific time period? And the options are option A, spanning tree VLAN 1 message 6, option B, spanning tree VLAN 1 hello time 10, option C, spanning tree VLAN 1 priority 4096, and option D, spanning tree VLAN 1 forward time 20. And the correct option is so the correct option is actually option D, spanning tree VLAN 1 forward time 20. It configures the forward time of a VLAN. The forward time value can be from 4 to 30 seconds. So this value is basically seconds. Question number 10. Let me move a little back. Which attribute does a router use to select the best path when two or more different routes to the same destination exist between two different routing protocols? And the options are option A, dual algorithm, option B, metric, option C, administrative distance, and option D, hop count. And the correct option is option C, administrative distance. So administrative distance is the feature used by routers to select the best path when there are two or more different routes to the same destination from different routing protocol. Administrative distance defines the reliability of a routing protocol. What does this mean? That let's suppose this is our router and let's suppose this is internet, and let's suppose this is another router. So this router learns two paths. One is this is, let's suppose, static, and this one is learned through the OSPF, and they both leads to the same destination. So which one would be preferred? The one with less administrative distance. If the static administrative distance is, let's suppose, 10 and the OSPF administrative distance is 110, then this one will be used or selected. So that is the concept behind the administrative distance, that when you have two or more paths to the same destination that are learned through different routing protocols, then the one with the less administrative distance will be preferred. Question number 11. Which command prevents password from being stored in the configuration as plain text on a router or switch? And the options are A, enable secret, B, service password encryption, C, username Cisco password encrypt, and option D, enable password. And the correct option is service password encryption. So what does this command do? This command encrypts all the password that are clear text inside your configuration on a particular switch or router. Service password encryption encrypts all clear text password within the configuration file using a weak form of encryption, that is Wagoner cipher. While it's not the strongest encryption method, it is significantly better than storing passwords in plain text. Question number 12. A frame that enters a switch fails the frame check sequence. Which two interface counters are incremented? Choose two, and the options are option A, runts, option B joints, option C frame, option D CRC, and option E input errors. And the correct options are option D CRC cyclic redundancy check and option E input errors. So CRC cyclic redundancy check, this counter is incremented because the frame failed the CRC check, indicating that the data within the frame is corrupted. Input errors, this counter is incremented for any errors that occur when receiving frames, including CRC errors, frame errors, runs, and joints. Question number 13. Which command enables a router to become a DHCP client? And the options are, what does DHCP client mean? That the router takes an IP address from a DHCP server as a client, and the options are option A IP address DHCP, option B IP helper address, option C IP DHCP pool, and option D IP DHCP client. And the correct option is option A IP address DHCP. So IP address DHCP is the command used to configure an interface on a router to obtain its IP address dynamically from a DHCP server. This makes the router behave as a DHCP client for that specific interface. The other options are related to different DHCP functionalities. IP helper address is used to configure a router as a DHCP relay agent, forwarding DHCP requests from clients to a DHCP server. IP DHCP pool is used to define a DHCP pool of IP addresses for a DHCP server to assign to clients. An IP DHCP client is not a valid command in Cisco IOS. By using IP address DHCP, the router will automatically acquire an IP address, subnet mask, default gateway, and other network parameters from the DHCP server. Question number 14. Which two encoding methods are supported by REST APIs? Choose two, and the options are option A YAML, option B JSON, option C EBCDIC, option D SGML, and option E XML. And the correct two options are option B JSON and option E XML. So JSON, that is JavaScript object notation, and XML extensible markup language are the two primary data formats used for exchanging data in REST APIs. They are human readable and easily parsed by machines. JSON is generally preferred for its simplicity and efficiency, while XML offers more structure and flexibility. Question number 15. Two switches are connected and using Cisco Dynamic Trunking Protocol. SW1 is set to dynamic desirable. What is the result of this configuration? And the options are option A, the link is in a down state. Option B, the link is in an error desirable state, disabled state. Option C, the link becomes an access port. Option D, the link becomes a trunk port. And the correct option is option B, option D, the link becomes a trunk port. So the dynamic desirable mode actively attempts to convert a link into a trunk. Since switch 1 is configured as dynamic desirable, it will actively negotiate with switch 2 to form a trunk link. If switch 2 is configured as dynamic auto or dynamic desirable, the negotiation will be successful and the link will become a trunk port. Question number 16. When configuring IPv6 on an interface, which two IPv6 multicast groups are joined? choose two options, and the options are option A 2000:/3, option B 2002:5, option C FC00:/7, option D FF02:1, and option E FF02:2. And the correct options are option D FF002:1 and option E FF02:2. So when an interface is configured with IP version 6 address, it automatically joins the all nodes, that is FF02:1, and solicited node, that is FF02:1 FFXX:XXXX multicast groups. The all node group is used to communicate with all interfaces on the local link, and the solicited nodes multicast group is required for link layer address resolution. Routers also join a third multicast group, the all routers group, that is FF02:2. Question number 17. Which MAC address is recognized as VRRP virtual address? And the options are option A 0000.5E00.010A, option B 0005.3711.0975, option C tetra0.0C07.AC99, and option D 0007.C070/AB01. And the correct option is option A tetra0.5E00.010A. And why is that? So the VRRP, that is Virtual Router Redundancy Protocol, uses a specific MAC address format for its virtual routers. This format is basically 0000.5E00.01XX, where the XX represents the VRRP group ID in the hexadecimal format. Therefore, among the options provided, only option A matches the VRRP virtual MAC address format. The other options are standard MAC addresses used for physical network interfaces. So, this is basically the format of VRRP virtual MAC address, where the last two numbers are in hexadecimal and represent the VRRP group ID. Question number 18. Which type of wireless encryption is used for WPA2 in pre-shared key mode? And the options are option A TKIP with RC4, option B RC4, option C AES-128, and option D AES-265. And the correct option is option D AES Advanced Encryption Standard with 256 key length. So the type of wireless encryption used for WPA2 in pre-shared key, that is PSK mode, is AES-256. WPA2 uses Advanced Encryption Standard for encryption, and in pre-shared key mode it typically employs AES with a 256-bit key for enhanced security. Question number 19. Which two actions are performed by the weighted random early detection mechanism? Choose two options, and the options are option A, it drops lower priority packets before it drops higher priority packets. Option B, it can identify different flows with a high level of granularity. Option C, it guarantees the delivery of high priority packets. Option D, it can mitigate congestion by preventing the queue from filling up. And option E, it supports protocol discovery. And the correct options are option A, it drops lower priority packets before it drops higher priority packets. And option D, it can mitigate congestion by preventing the queue from filling up. So the weighted random early detection, that is WRAD mechanism, performs the following two options, option A and option D. So the RAD is a congestion avoidance mechanism that selectively drops packets based on their priority and queue depth, helping to manage network traffic and prevent congestion before queues become full. Question number 20. When a floating static route is configured, which action ensures that the backup route is used when the primary route fails? And the options are option A, the floating static route must have a higher administrative distance than the primary route, so it is used as a backup. Option B, the administrative distance must be higher on the primary route so that the backup route becomes secondary. Option C, the floating static route must have a lower administrative distance than the primary route, so it is used as a backup. And option D, the default information originate command must be configured for the route to be installed into the routing table. And the correct option is option A, the floating static route must have a higher administrative distance than the primary route, so it is used as a backup. So it means that the primary route will have a less administrative distance than the secondary floating static route. So the administrative distance works such that the less is the route with less administrative distance is preferred. So if we have two routes, one have 5 administrative distance and the other have 10, then the one with the 5 administrative distance is preferred and selected. So administrative distance is a metric used by routers to determine the best path to a destination. Lower administrative distance values indicate a more preferred path. A floating static route is a static route configured with a higher AD than the primary route, typically learned via dynamic routing protocol. When the primary route fails, the router will look for the next best option based on administrative distance. Since the floating static route has a higher AD, it becomes the preferred path. Question number 21. Which mode allows access points to be managed by Cisco wireless LAN controllers? And the options are option A, autonomous, option B, lightweight, option C, bridge, and option D, mobility express. And the correct option is option B, lightweight. So in lightweight mode, access points are managed by Cisco wireless LAN controllers. This mode allows the controller to handle configuration, management, and data traffic, providing a more centralized management approach for the wireless network. Question number 22. Which QoS or quality of service profile is selected in the GUI when configuring a voice over wireless LAN deployment? And the options are option A, bronze, option B, platinum, option C, silver, and option D, gold. And the correct option is option B, platinum. So in a voice over wireless LAN deployment, the platinum quality of service profile is typically selected in the GUI. This profile prioritizes voice traffic to ensure high quality and minimal latency for voice calls. Question number 23. If a notice level messaging is sent to a syslog server, which event has occurred? And the options are: option A, a network device has restarted. Option B, an ARP inspection has failed. Option C, a routing instance has flagged. And option D, a debug operation is running. And the correct option is option C, a routing instance has flagged. So notice level messaging typically indicates a normal but significant condition. A routing instance flapping is considered a significant event that requires monitoring but does not necessarily require immediate action. Other options involve more critical events that would likely generate higher severity levels. For example, alert, critical, and error. Question number 24. What are two southbound APIs? Choose two, and the options are: option A, OpenFlow; option B, netconf; option C, thrift; option D, Corba; and option E, DSC. And the correct options are OpenFlow and option B, the netconf. Explanation. So southbound APIs are used for communication between a network controller and network devices like switches and routers. So the OpenFlow is a widely used protocol for SDN, that is software defined networking, that provides a standardized way for controllers to program network devices. netconf is another protocol used for configuring network devices, often used in conjunction with Yang data modeling language. So this is how the northbound and the southbound APIs work. So in this direction, this is north, and this is south. So the southbound API means that data flow direction or the configuration direction is towards south. So here this is the controller, and when this controller manages or configures the devices such as the network switches or router, then the direction is towards south. That's why this is called the southbound API. While the SDN layer above the controller, the controller direction in this case is towards north. Let me get back. Such as here we have virtual services, applications, etc. that consumes these controller services. So since they are above the controller layer, so that's why these APIs are known as the northbound APIs. I hope this is clear. Question number 25. An email user has been lured into clicking a link in an email sent by their company's security organization. The web page that opens reports that it was safe, but the link could have contained malicious code. Which type of security program is in place? And the options are: option A, physical access control; option B, social engineering attack; option C, brute force attack; and option D, user awareness. And the correct option is user awareness program. So this is a simulation type of user awareness program where security department of the organization sends email to their own employees such that to educate them with such type of link that may be sent from malicious actors. So this is a type of practical training. Instead of just giving lectures, they are practically sent links through to their email addresses, and this type of simulated awareness program is part of the user awareness. So the scenario described in the question is an example of a security program designed to educate and raise awareness among users about the dangers of phishing and other social engineering attacks. This type of program is typically aimed at improving user awareness and ensuring that users are vigilant about potential security threats. Question number 26. An engineer must configure a /30 subnet between two routers. Which usable IP address and subnet mask combination meets this criteria? So here we have, let's suppose, two routers, and we need to configure two IP addresses between them using a /30 subnet. So these are the four scenarios that can be used. Option A, B, C, and D. So what is the correct option? So in option A we have 209.165.201.2, while the subnet mask is 255.255.255.252. In option B it is 10.2.1.3 and the subnet mask is again 252. In option C the IP address is 172.16.1.4 and the subnet mask is 248. So remember, this is /29. This is not /30. Okay, so this one, this is not the, this surely goes out of our correct option. So this cannot be the correct answer. And this one also, this has a subnet mask of 248, while we require to configure with a /30. So the correct option must be from this option A or option B. So let's see what is the correct option. And the correct option is option A, 209.165.201.2, while 252 is the subnet mask. So why this is not the correct option and this is the correct option? It is because if you break down the whole network, then we have, this is the, let's suppose, the IP address, this is the network address, this is the broadcast address. We have total 4 addresses and 2 are usable, and the usable addresses are 1 and 2. So again, as we studied in our earlier question, you cannot assign the broadcast address or network address to an interface. You can only assign the usable IP addresses. So either you can assign 1 or 2. On one router you will assign .2 and on the second router you will assign .1. So here let's suppose it is .1 and this is .2 and the rest of the IP will be this. Let's suppose this is R1 and this is R2. I hope this is clear. Question number 27. What is the default behavior of a layer 2 switch when a frame with an unknown destination MAC address is received? And the options are: option A, the layer 2 switch drops the received frame. Option B, the layer 2 switch floods packets to all ports except the receiving port in the given VLAN. Option C, the layer 2 switch sends a copy of a packet to CPU for destination MAC address learning. And option D, the layer 2 switch forwards the packet and adds the destination MAC address to its MAC address table. And the correct option is option B, the layer 2 switch floods packets to all ports except the receiving port in the given VLAN. So the default behavior of a layer 2 switch when it receives a frame with an unknown destination MAC address is to flood the frame to all ports except the one on which it was received within the same VLAN. This ensures that the frame reaches its intended destination, and when the destination device responds, the switch can learn and record the MAC address in its MAC address table for future use. Question number 28. An engineer is asked to protect unused ports that are configured in the default VLAN on a switch. Which two steps will fulfill the request? Choose two options. And the options are: option A, configure the port in an EtherChannel. Option B, administratively shut down the port. Option C, configure the port type as access and place in VLAN 99. Option D, configure the port as trunk ports. And option E, enable the Cisco Discovery Protocol. And the correct option is that the unused ports should be administratively shut down and they should be configured in the port type as access and placed in a VLAN such as VLAN 99. These two options are the most effective way to protect unused port on a switch. Administratively shutting down the port physically disables the port, preventing any traffic from being sent or received. Configuring the port type as access and placing it in the VLAN 99 isolates the port from the default VLAN and places it in a dedicated unused VLAN. This prevents unauthorized access through the port. Question number 29. Which command is used to specify the delay time in seconds for LLDP to initialize on any interface? And the options are: option A, LLDP timer. Option B, LLDP hold time T. Option C, LLDP re-init. And option D, LLDP TLV-select. And the correct option is option C, LLDP re-init. So the command to specify the delay time in seconds for LLDP to initialize on any interface is LLDP re-init. This command sets the delay time before LLDP re-initialization occurs. Question number 30. A network engineer must backup 20 network router configurations globally within a customer environment. Which protocol allows the engineer to perform this function using Cisco IOS MEB? And the options are: option A, CDP, option B, SNMP, option C, SMTP, and option D, ARP. And the correct option is option B, SNMP, Simple Network Management Protocol. So the SNMP, Simple Network Management Protocol, is the correct choice. It allows network devices to be managed and monitored remotely, including retrieving configuration data like router configurations. SNMP uses management information bases, that is MIPS, to define the structure and content of network management information. The Cisco IOS MIB provides specific information about Cisco routers, including configuration data.